So this Stephanos crown, the first way to define what this Stephanos crown is to define what it is not. And it is not our salvation. Okay? The Stephanos crown does not in any way represent our salvation. And the reason why I say that is because I see in the scriptures, and we're going to look at this, that not every Christian is actually going to receive a Stephanos crown. Because there are going to be Christians that have everlasting life and they're in the kingdom, but they do not have a Stephanos crown. And I'm going to show that to you. So when Jesus says, hold fast what you have so no one may take your crown, he's obviously not referring to salvation because no one can take your salvation, right? You can't actually lose your salvation. You can't lose your salvation and you can't have your salvation taken away. But what I would add to that is you can reject your salvation. You can, of your own will, give your salvation up. But no one can take it from you. No one can steal your salvation, right? No one can do that. But you can reject your salvation. So he's not talking about our salvation here in the sense that he says, hold fast what you have so that no one will take your crown. So we know this crown is not salvation. So rather, these Stephanos crowns are symbols of how well and how faithful we were in this race of life. And so these crowns are given only by one person and one person only, and that is the one who holds the key of David. That is Jesus Christ. So Jesus Christ is the one who honors us with these crowns. So these Stephanos crowns, as you go through the New Testament, you find three main Stephanos crowns, three crowns of victory. You see that it's the crown of life. That's in James 1, and we also read it in Revelation 2. We see the crown of righteousness. We also see the crown of glory. Now, there's two other crowns that are mentioned in the Bible. I think they're relating to something else. I think these are the three main crowns. And again, it's not up to us on what crown we get. We can kind of have a conjecture and understanding of who's going to get what crown. The crown of life is for those who persevere and endure. The crown of glory is those who rule well. And the crown of righteousness, as we're going to read it, is for those who love him and those who have kept the faith. So, and who knows? Some of us might get all three, right? I think that these crowns are just symbols of our status in the kingdom. And so these three main crowns, as you looked at them in the Bible, I want to read these verses for you so you can see them with your own eyes and see the context of who's getting these crowns. And you're going to notice one common element through all this. It's the faithful that are getting these crowns. So notice what he says. We read this earlier in Revelation 2:10 when we went through this. It was Smyrna. He says, indeed, the devil is about to throw some of you into prison so that you may be tested, and you will have tribulation 10 days. Be faithful until death, and I will give you the crown of life. So notice it's Jesus, I will give you the crown of life. So because they were faithful even until death. And then in James 1:12, James talks about this crown of life as well. He says, blessed is the man who endures. That word endures is hupomeno. It means to underabide or persevere. The one who endures or perseveres temptation. For when he has been approved, he will receive the crown of life which the Lord has promised to those who love him. So notice that word, receive. Everywhere, you don't see anybody stealing a crown. These crowns are given by Jesus, the one who has the key of David, and we receive these crowns as a reward for how well we ran this race of life. And notice we got two things. Faithfulness, the ones who were faithful until death, they received the crown of life. The one who endured temptation, and I love this. This goes together, and believe me, we're going to be talking about this word, dokimos. I love this word. It means proven genuine. The proven genuineness of our faith relates exactly with the crowns and rewards that we're going to get through the Bema Seat judgment. It all relates to that. I can't wait. As we're building to Revelation 4, we're going to be talking a lot about who's going to be passing through the Bema Seat and what rewards are they going to be getting and what's the basis of the rewards. And it's based on your proven genuineness, the dokimos. And so those who have been approved, who've been proven genuine, they will receive this crown of life. And then I love this. It all comes back to do you love Jesus? The Lord has promised this crown to those who love him. So again, I don't want you to feel like I'm putting a lot of pressure on you, because this, one, it's the Bible, it's Jesus, but the best way I can sum this up is, do you love your King? Do you love Jesus? Are you willing to just give him your life, right? It's not about what you're doing. It's not about following the law or the 10 Commandments or how good you are. It's none of that. That's pressure, right? None of us need that kind of pressure. But it's, do you love him? Do you know him? Do you know our King? And those that love him and know him, you're faithful to him, and he is faithful to you. So I love that he puts that in here, that the ones that are receiving the crown of life, it's promised to those who love him. Now in 1 Peter 5, we see the crown of glory. He says, shepherd the flock of God, which is among you, serving as overseers, right? So he's talking specifically to overseers in the church. These overseers have been given responsibility within the church, and how well you shepherd the flock is you're going to get a reward based on that. Notice what he says. You've shepherded the flock well, not by compulsion, but willingly, not for dishonest gain, but eagerly, nor as being lords over those entrusted to you, but being examples to the flock. And when the chief shepherd appears, you will receive the crown of glory that does not fade away. Man, I love that. I'm going to pick out two things. Again, notice the receiving. We're receiving this crown of glory. We're receiving this crown, but notice when it happens. When the chief shepherd appears, right? When he appears, man, this is it. When he comes to catch us away, this is when all these things start happening. This is when the crowns he's judging, and that's the Bema Seat judgment as he judges on our heart. And just to let you know, the Bema Seat judgment is not about judging sin. It's not about judging, the things in our life that were bad, other than those things that we didn't do, that we didn't build on Jesus Christ, are going to be burned away. That's the worst thing that's going to happen in the Bema Seat judgment, is those old things are going to be burned away, and then we're going to be rewarded on the things that endured. We're actually going to be reading that in a little bit. So notice how so far we've seen that the crowns are tied to faithfulness. Now the last crown, the crown of righteousness. This is Paul, 2 Timothy 4, 7, and 8. He gives us a little clue on what it is to receive this crown of righteousness. He says, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Man, that is such a good three things, right? It all comes down to faithfulness. I have fought the good fight of faith. I have finished the race, and I have kept the faith. And so therefore, he knows something. He says, finally, there is laid up for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give to me on that day. That day, the day of Christ, the day we pass through that Bema Seat judgment. And it says, and not to me only. I love this, because Paul is a pretty high standard to follow, right? But he says, and not to me only, but also to all who held fast to the 10 Commandments, did good works their whole life. No, who's this crown of righteousness going to be given to? Not to me only, but the ones who have loved his appearing. Again, there's that word love again. That's why it's all about loving him and having a relationship with him and holding fast to him. And out of that, you fight the good fight. You finish the race. You keep the faith, right? Those are byproducts of loving him. That's why we run the race well, is because we love Jesus. Jesus is at the finish line. We want to run to him. I love that. So every one of these crowns we see are promised to faithful Christians, right? To the ones who love Jesus. And again, it's not according to good works, it's according to faithfulness. Now, just like I say, good works will come from faithfulness. We bear good fruit because we're faithful, because we love Jesus, because we're abiding in the vine. And when you're abiding in the vine, his work is flowing through you and it's bearing good fruit. That's that idea. So the Stephanos crown is basically given to those who run the race of faithfulness well. So in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, we see Paul talks about these crowns. And he tells us, it gives us a little clue on how can you obtain this crown. So we'll read this. I love this. So he says, the one who receives this crown is the one who's going to win the race. So he says this, do you not know that those who run in a race, they all run, but only one receives the prize? There's only one type of person that will receive this prize. So run in such a way that you may obtain it. That means there has to be something to obtain this prize. There's something that we need to be doing. And he goes on and explains. And everyone who competes for the prize is temperate or is self-controlled in all things. Now they do it, he's talking about athletes in the Isthmian Games or the Olympic Games. He says, now professional athletes, they do it to obtain a perishable crown. Right? This perishable crown, this word crown is the same Stephanos crown, but this is a perishable crown. It was a victor's crown that they would put on top of the winners of the Isthmian Games or the Olympic Games, and they would be crowned with a victor's crown. So they're running their race to get that crown, but we, Christians, we're running for an imperishable crown. Right? One that's not going to fade away. Therefore, so because of this, I love this. Now Paul puts this into perspective. He says, therefore I run thus, not with uncertainty, thus I fight, not as one who beats the air, but I discipline my body, and I bring it into subjection, lest when I have preached to others, I myself should become disqualified. So Paul, he's obviously reaching for something, right? He's reaching for the prize. And he's concerned that if he doesn't do this well, if he doesn't finish well, he's going to be disqualified from something. But is he talking about being disqualified from salvation? Of course not, right? He's not talking about losing his salvation or being disqualified from salvation. He's talking about being disqualified from receiving this imperishable crown, right? And I love this. This is where I broke it down here. You can see this word, disqualified, is actually the word dakimos. This word in Greek, whenever you put an alpha as a prefix, it makes it like it's not. So you are not proven genuine. So dakimos, James told us that the ones who are approved will receive the crown of life. The ones who are proven genuine will receive the crown of life. He says, I'm doing these things, I'm running this race well with endurance so that I don't get to the end and I hear those words that you're not proven genuine. See how that connects? It's a matter of being proven genuine. And that proven genuine, it goes back to what Dalton just saying just before this. It's about being purified in the fire, the Holy Spirit bringing, and because we can't prove ourselves, we can't even sanctify ourselves. But we make the decision to be faithful to Him and His Word, and His Spirit is what sanctifies us and purifies us and proves us genuine. So that's Paul now telling us that he runs this race of life in a certain way, so that he will be proven genuine in the end. The other connection that I want to show you, and I mentioned this earlier, that's not a coincidence, is that the Church of Philadelphia, being the faithful church, they have both a promise of a crown and they have the promise of the rapture. And the reason why I connect those two together, these two promises go hand in hand, because only the faithful Christians who are caught away to be with Jesus will receive the Stephanos crown. That's a huge thing. So if you are playing the harlot with the world and think you can just skate by this world and not be faithful, and then, the rapture happened, and then, I'll shape up my life and I'll get it in gear. And there's going to be a lot of those types of Christians. They're called the tribulation martyrs. They are not the bride, and nowhere do we ever see them wearing Stephanos crowns. It's very interesting. The only Christian group that we see wearing Stephanos crowns are the 24 elders. The 24 elders are a distinct group of Christians that I believe are a symbol of the bride of Christ. Now again, these are not just 24 people. There are not just 24 people that are going to get this crown, right? These are 24 elders that are representing the multitudes of the faithful Christians that were caught away to be with Jesus, who were counted worthy to escape the trial that would come upon the whole earth, right? This open door, the ones who went through this open door, and he says, I will keep you from the hour of trial, right? That's the 24 elders. They're representing the multitude similitude of the bride of Christ. So again, the 24 elders, they're seated on thrones, and we see that they have glorified bodies. They're wearing Stephanos crowns, and remember from our study about a month ago, they were clothed in white garments, himation garments, very distinct from the stole garment that the tribulation martyrs are wearing. See, tribulation martyrs are still Christians, and they actually have a promise to rule and reign with Jesus in his kingdom, but they're not going to be his bride. And they're even wearing a different robe, a stole robe, still a noble robe, but not a robe like the 24 elders, and it's only the 24 elders that are wearing Stephanos crowns. The tribulation martyrs, nowhere do you ever find any other Christian wearing, in the book of Revelation, wearing a Stephanos crown. So very interesting as we're going. That's why it's so important that we learn, what are these Stephanos crowns? Again, it's not our salvation, it's our faithfulness. And the ones who are faithful will be counted worthy to be raptured, to be caught away, and they'll be receiving these amazing robes, these himation garments, and these Stephanos crowns, and our glorified bodies, and we're going to be his bride. It's the arrangement of the body of Christ. There's actually a gradation of Christians. People might not like to hear that, but God is grading his people, and he's going to reward them on their faithfulness. And it's very clear. Now, in the Old Testament promises the same thing, the same Stephanos crown to the faithful. So you see it in Psalms and Proverbs, Esther, Isaiah, right? We see this. And so this is not a new covenant thing. This is something that God's been saying ever since he started writing the Bible. And my favorite is Zechariah 6:11 through 14. Again, this is from the Septuagint. And notice what he says. Take the silver and gold and make elaborate crowns. And that crowns is actually plural in the Septuagint. It's Stephanos. There's multiple crowns. And I love that because we, the faithful, are going to be given Stephanos crowns. So he says, take the silver and gold and make elaborate Stephanos crowns. Now, this verse 14, I absolutely love it. This is what brings it all together. Verse 14, and the Stephanos crown will be for the ones who persevere, and for those who are useful, and for those who know the counsel of peace. Isn't that good? Right there, Zechariah promises and tells us that this Stephanos crown meant for the faithful is going to be for the ones who persevere, who are useful for the master, and know the counsel of peace. That know this counsel of peace is this. This counsel of peace is the fact that Jesus Christ is both a priest and a king on his throne, and there's peace between them both. That's it. So those who know that, who know our king and are useful for the king and persevere for our king, they are the ones who are going to be granted Stephanos crowns. Isn't that amazing? In the Old Testament, I love that. I mean, that's why I love the Septuagint, because you could never pull that out. You really couldn't draw that out of the Hebrew. There's ways you can, but being and seeing it in the Greek, it pulls it together, and it tells us it's the same promise. The same promise that we have now in Revelation is the same promise they had back in the Old Covenant.